tuned in to Radio Gold. Conan the Cimmerion, also known as Conan the Barbarian, is a fictional sword and sorcery fantasy hero that originated in 1930s pulp fiction magazines. It was a natural for radio storytelling and has since been adapted to books, comics, several films, television programs, and more. Well, you get the idea. A character iconic over time. The character was created by Robert E. Howard, an American writer, in 1932 via a series of fantasy stories published in Weird Tales magazine. Ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to present 4 Adventures of Conan the Cimmerian.
The year is 10,000 B.C. The voice we hear is that of Conan the Barbarian, telling his story. The ancient times he speaks of are times of violence, of cruelty of man toward man, of destruction of whole peoples, of things that have not changed enough with the passage of time.
I was but a young lad as I stood on the hill with my mother, listening in fascination to the words of my father as he worked at his anvil on a mighty sword of steel.
This sword, the greatest work of my life, shall someday be yours, Conan, for you are my son, and someday you too must learn the secret of steel. Steel is strength, steel is power, steel is life. Fire and wind are gifts from the gods of the sky, but the secret of steel comes from Crom, who lives in the earth. Crom is your god. Are you listening, lad?
Yes, Father.
Then hear this too. Let shamans and fools worship Crom if they will, but he is a cruel god who cares nothing for the suffering of men. Learn only the secret of steel from Crom, and you will have no more need for him. Your sword will be your soul.
The next day, I was to learn for myself the true meaning of the word suffering. The Vanir, a savage warrior tribe from the north, attacked our village without warning, without mercy. My father's sword found the heart of many a treacherous Vanir, but there were too many to withstand, and in the end he was torn to ribbons by a horde of Vanir warhounds. The savage Vanir slew my mother before my very eyes, and flaunting their horrible snake banners, they lined up in front of the doomed village, chanting a single word, the true meaning of which I would learn only years later. Then, at a signal, the whole village was put to the torch, and I was put in chains along with the other children. And the last sight I beheld as we were led away was the heads of my parents on a pair of Vanir pikes.
By Mitra, by Crom, by all the gods, I swear to you, my parents, this day shall be avenged.
After endless days of trudging north through bitter wind and blinding snow, we reached Vanaheim, land of the Vanir, only to discover that our suffering had only begun.
Beginning this day, you sons of Cimmerian dogs shall spend the rest of your wretched lives chained to the wheel of pain, grinding grain for the tables of Vanaheim.
And day after day I strained at my spoke of the great man-killing wheel, and the weeks grew into months, and months into years, and all the others died. I alone, nurtured by my insatiable desire for revenge, grew stronger and survived into full manhood. And then one day...
You, Cimmerian, you are my slave now, and you will come with me. Guard and chain him. Yes, sire.
By this time, I had become what some called a giant of a man. And when we arrived at my new owner's castle, I learned soon enough why he had brought me there.
Into the pit with him.
Prodding me with their spears, his men forced me down into a gigantic fighting pit. Glowering at me across the pit was a huge monster of a man, snarling through hideous pointed teeth, filed razor sharp, his deep-set eyes aflame with raging hate.
Prepare to die, barbarian dog. Your first pit fight will be your last.
With the fury of a panther, he lunged for my throat, and the battle was on.
Look, the barbarian is down. Mugam has him by the throat.
Ah, we've been robbed. This fight's finished before it's even started.
No, look, he's up. The barbarian is up. He's tossed Mugam right over on his back.
But Mugam was up on his feet in an instant.
This time, Cimmerian, there is no escape. I'll destroy you.
And he charged head down with a ferocity that nearly caved in my chest.
Dog, I'm a dog. If the wheel of pain could not destroy me, neither can you. By the blood of Crom, I'll destroy you first.
The barbarian, look, he's lifting Mugam right up over his head.
He's hurling him head first against the wall of the pit.
He isn't moving.
He's dead. Mugam is dead.
And now, the bloodthirsty crowd was cheering for me, the pit fighter, the gladiator, killer of men. And from that day, I had to go on killing in battle after battle. I was taught the art of war by masters, and learned languages and writing, and the love of women. And living was easier. Yet I was still a prisoner, caged behind bars, and the yearning to be free burned stronger than ever in my heart. Then one night, there was a deep rumbling in the earth, and the floor beneath my feet began to tremble and shake.
It is the Earth Giants.
They're going to destroy us. Run for your lives.
The terrified Vanir guarding me started to run, but were crushed in their tracks by falling rocks. Yet I was unharmed, and suddenly I saw the bars of my prison fall away, and the road to freedom open up before my eyes. I must run from this place as far and as fast as my legs will carry me. And I fled wildly through snow-filled forests, frozen rivers, and icebound tundra. But over the sound of crunching snow and the clanking of the broken slave chain still hanging from my wrist, there rose a more menacing sound. A sound that sent a chill through my bones. The howl of a wolf pack on my trail. That hill just ahead. If I could but reach it, I could hold them off there. And soon I was on the hill, and I turned just in time to see the leader of the pack, fangs bared in a ferocious snarl, leap to the attack. One swing of my chain was enough to discourage him. But I knew I couldn't hold off the entire pack. So I backed away, hoping to find protection behind some rocks, when suddenly the ground gave way beneath my feet, and I fell into a deep pit, leaving a pack of snarling, frustrated wolves waiting above me.
By Crom, what manner of place have I fallen into?
At first I could see nothing in the darkness, until with a flint and steel from my girdle, I started a fire and looked around. It's a cave, an enormous cavern, and on the walls, bold carvings and signs, remnants of some ancient, long-forgotten race. Suddenly in the shadows, my eye caught sight of a giant warrior, seated astride a throne, casting a huge shadow in the wall behind him.
Who are you, and what is this place?
I demanded imperiously, but he sat immobile and said nothing. I moved closer.
Speak, or by the gods I'll...
And then I realized the seated figure had long since spoken his last words and fought his last battle. Astride that huge throne sat the skeletal remains of an ancient king, sheathed in copper armor, tarnished with age. And across his lap,
a sword. A magnificent sword, fit for a king. But now it is mine. Aye, and the first blow I shall strike with it will be to free myself at last from this cursed chain.
And raising the mighty sword high above my head, I brought it down with such force that a single blow was sufficient to shatter the last link to my years of bondage in the land of the Vanir. Climbing out of that pit of eternal darkness, for a moment I just stood still, luxuriating in the golden light of day. But in an instant the calm was shattered by a sound that would freeze the blood of any man. The wolf pack. They waited for me to return, and now they close in for the kill. And then I remembered my father being torn apart by the Vanir hounds, and spurred on by that bitter memory, I lay about me with my sword, with an unbounded fury that laid every savage attacker dead in a circle around me.
It is finished. Over, by Crom. And perhaps now my life can enter on a new beginning.
Fashioning a warm cloak out of the pelts of the dead wolves, I made ready for the final phase of my escape. But in my heart I knew I would not be at peace with myself until I found the ones responsible for the death of my parents. Until vengeance was mine. The long years of imprisonment in the land of the brutal Vanir were behind me forever. And ready for whatever lay ahead, I set out on a long march south. It was dusk when I found myself at the edge of a clearing in the woods, and there, nestled against the side of a hill, I saw a hut of stone and sod, smoke rising from the chimney. And standing in the doorway, a strangely beautiful woman.
Come in, stranger. Would you not like to warm yourself by my fire?
Aye, that I would.
Whence come you?
I am Cimmerian.
You are a barbarian slave from the north. I can see it in your eyes. And where do you go?
South, where it's warm and they don't ask questions.
Aha! It was foretold you would come from the north. A man of great strength, who would by his own hand become a king, and would crush the snakes of the earth beneath his bared feet.
Snakes. Woman, did you say snakes?
Snakes seem to interest you, barbarian. What is it you seek?
A banner. A flag with two snakes facing each other.
Over a black sun and moon? Yes, barbarian. I can tell you what you need to know. But first, take me in your arms and hold me close. It has been so long. You will find what you seek in Zamora, barbarian. Zamora, crossroads of the world.
Ah! Crom's thunder! You are not a woman! You're some kind of beast!
Her fingers had become enormous claws digging into my shoulders, and what was a face of beauty became transformed into a hate-filled mask of horror, with huge fangs seeking my jugular. She was a witch woman.
You are dead, barbarian! Dead! Dead! Dead!
Snarling and slavering, she clung to me with the strength of 10 fiends, until I finally tore myself free and hurled her headlong into the blazing hearth, where she exploded in a blinding flash of light. A ball of fire shot from the hearth, howling and shrieking, and disappeared in the vast emptiness of the star-filled night. By Crom, this place reeks of evil. The sooner I leave it, the better. It was dawn when I was finally ready to leave. But as I stepped outside...
Food. Food. I beg you, food.
Ah, who the devil are you? Tied to a stake beside the hut, huddled the half-frozen figure of a man.
I am Subutai, from the land of Hyrcania. Thief by profession, archer of the great order of Curlate.
And I am Conan of Cimmeria. How came you to this miserable condition, thief?
I stopped here for food and warmth, as you did, but never got past dinner. That cursed witch left me here to be dinner for her wolves.
I released him and gave him food, and he was grateful. In spite of his unsavory profession, my instincts told me Subutai was a man to be trusted, and soon we set off together.
Where do we travel, Cimmerian?
South to Zamora. What I seek is there, at the crossroads of the world.
Zamora, I know it well.
We ran and ran, ever south across the great steppe. Endless hours of running while he told me his story, and I told him mine. Then on the crest of a great hill, we stopped. There below us lay a beautiful city. What place is this, Subutai?
We are in the land of Zamora, my friend, and yonder lies Shadizar, her capital city.
Zamora. Here, O my parents of blessed memory, here at last may my pledge to you be fulfilled, and the evil that struck you down, once and for all, be destroyed in its lair.
Perhaps we should rest here a while, Conan.
No, I have not come this far to waste time needlessly. Soon we were in the city, wandering through the stalls of a crowded bazaar, overflowing with the good things of the earth. Truly, the crossroads of the world. Whatever we needed, we took, omitting only the formality of paying. Subutai had indeed turned the profession of thievery into an art. Suddenly, Subutai, listen, those drums and flutes.
Aye, Conan, I hear them, and I know that sound well. Ah, look there.
A religious procession of some kind.
Followers of Set, god of the serpent, a strange and sinister cult of enormous power and wealth.
Strange indeed was the procession winding its way through the narrow, crowd-choked streets of the city. Men in long white robes swinging pots of burning incense. Others dressed in the helmets and armor of warriors. Youths holding undulating snakes high over their heads. And then, carried on a canopied platform, a woman of haunting beauty, wearing a huge serpent around her shoulders like a shawl. As she passed, our eyes met.
You, warrior, hear me. A cleansing is coming. A great cleansing of doom. Throw down your sword. Shed your skin like the serpent. And like unto the serpent, you too will be renewed.
And then she was gone. And suddenly, I heard a chant that sent a chill through my body, and at the same time, a thrill of anticipation. The hated chant I had heard so long ago, now rising from the throats of white-robed men, vacant-eyed flagellants, lashing at their bodies with whips of snakeskin, chanting, always chanting. That cursed word, like an ever-recurring nightmare.
Here in Shadizar, everyone chants, blindly following the false gods of false religions.
Who was that girl, Subatai? The one with a snake around her shoulders.
That was no ordinary girl, my friend. That was the princess of Shadizar, a priestess of Set.
Tell me more of this strange cult.
The followers of Set are feared for their deceptive, murderous ways. They worship the evil god Set himself, said to be a serpent. So beware. Death could lie in wait behind those beautiful eyes of the princess. But come, there are other even greater wonders to be seen in Shadizar.
We made our way through the narrow streets to the edge of the city. And suddenly I stopped, transfixed by the sight that greeted my eyes.
Behold the Tower of the Serpent, Conan, the Tower of Set. Within those walls, it is whispered, lies a dazzling fortune in gold and silver and jewels without end, aye, and among them the greatest jewel of all, the Eye of the Serpent.
Then what are we waiting for, friend? I would feast my eyes on such a wondrous treasure without delay. Follow me. Within minutes, we reached the great wall surrounding the tower, and in the lengthening shadows of twilight made ready to climb the outside wall and then the tower beyond.
Be careful, Cimmerian. Beyond those walls lie not only great treasures, but a great multitude of snakes.
Exercising the greatest of caution, we climbed over the outer wall. But just inside... Shh! Something is moving in the bushes over there by the tower. Did you not hear it?
Nay, barbarian, I heard nothing.
It could be a guard. Wait here. I moved silently and swiftly toward the bush, hoping to take the fellow by surprise. But it was I who was taken by surprise.
Stop, villain! One more step and you die like a stuck pig.
Standing before me, sword in hand, was the most beautiful woman I had ever seen. Eyes flashing, flaxen hair flowing over her shoulders, and looking as though she knew only too well how to use the sword she held. I'll be a Kushite. You are no guard.
Nay, and neither are you. Who are you, barbarian?
I am Conan the Cimmerion, and this is my friend Subatai, master thief and master of the bow and arrow.
And what brings you here to this place?
Your dress is that of a pirate, and your manner that of a queen. Who are you that asks these imperious questions?
I am a queen, Valeria, queen of thieves. And again I ask, what brings you here?
If you truly are a queen of thieves, you must have already divined our purpose. We have come to plunder this place.
She is indeed what she says, Conan. I recognized you at once, Valeria, Queen of Thieves, but where are your men?
Pah! Craven cowards, all of them, superstitious fools who fear the legend of the serpent god and dare not set foot in this place. But in you, I see a pair of fools who laugh at death. Perhaps we can work together, for your purpose here is mine.
Smitten by her beauty and her courage, I did not hesitate a moment in joining forces with the beautiful Valeria, as we entered on an enterprise fraught with unimaginable dangers on every side. The Tower of Set, sacred temple of the serpent god, loomed ominously over us. But undaunted, we went forward with our plan. Valeria, flaxen-haired daughter of a far north kingdom, Subatai, master archer and master thief, and I, Conan of Cimmeria.
know, Cimmerian, of the horror beyond these walls?
Nothing at all, nor do I fear them. Whatever they are, we will overcome them, and the treasure within will be ours.
Good. Then go you first. I will follow, and Hyrcanian, you follow me.
With a mighty throw, I hurled the grappling iron with a rope attached skyward. It caught the edge of the tower rim, and the three of us began the climb to the top. Far below, the lights of Shadizar twinkled like stars as we climbed ever higher and at last reached the top.
Look, the rim of the tower, encrusted with jewels shimmering like 1,000 rainbow lights.
Aye, but over here, observe this opening in the roof, like a bottomless pit.
But these ropes descending down into the depths like ropes that carry buckets into a well, they're perfect for climbing.
Well, what are we waiting for? Let's go. As we slid down the ropes, we could hear a deep, resonant chanting, echoing from a chamber below. Valeria, who was a little ahead of us, called up to us.
Look, Conan, an opening in the wall. It's a shaft leading inward. I'll follow it and see where it goes. You two find out what's down below.
Subutai and I continued down, and finally our feet touched the slimy bottom, littered with rotting corpses. Through a narrow passageway, we followed a shaft of light that led us to a huge chamber. Above us, on the level where Valeria had remained, we could hear the voice of Yarrow, High Priest of Set, second in command of this cult of evil, leading the deep, rhythmic chant of the acolytes.
Look, Cimmerian, up there. A young girl at the very edge.
Aye, as though in a trance.
If she should fall... No, she will not fall. She will jump, a willing sacrifice to the god of this foul place. I have heard of this evil practice, but never dreamt I would...
Subutai, look, down here in the center of the chamber.
By Mitra, what magic is this?
There in the half-shadow of the great chamber we saw it. A strange altar, lighting up as though at a signal, in the glow of eldritch fires and wreathed in mist. And at its center, bedazzling as the light of 100 suns, the treasure we sought, the Eye of the Serpent.
Glory to Mitra. Our search is ended.
Aye, but by Crom, our troubles are just beginning. Look there. Coiled around the altar, and the wondrous gem at its center, lay a slumbering serpent, vaster by far than the denizen of any nightmare, its unctuous coils twice encircling the great altar.
That serpent, evil and foul enough to be the great god Set himself. Now what do we do?
Here, hold my sword. I'll see if I can't manage to purloin that little bubble without disturbing the sleep of that slimy monster watching over it. Holding a dagger between my teeth, I moved forward toward the altar, silent as a jungle cat. Leaning with one hand on the altar's edge, I reached out slowly with the other, until finally the glittering prize was within my grasp.
It's ours, Subutai. Now we can... Wait, by Crom! There on the altar, the symbol and the banners of the destroyers of my village. The symbol of the two snakes. Think I'll borrow this little trinket and put it in my... Cimmerian, behind you!
The warning came none too soon. The slumbering guardian of the altar was asleep no more. Fangs dripping with venom, the monstrous reptile wrapping one coil around my waist reared his ugly head high above me.
He's going to strike, Conan! Look out!
But as it struck, so did I, nailing its great jaws shut with the blade of my dagger, as an arrow from Subutai's bow struck it in the neck.
Arrows only annoy it, barbarian. It still lives. You must slay it with the steel of your sword. Here, catch!
I caught the sword just as the creature was about to strike again, and with one mighty stroke, I severed the great diamond head from its body, and the evil monster would kill no more. Just as we were about to leave, we looked up in time to see the ending of the drama being played out above us between the young girl and Yarrow, the high priest.
And now the time has come. Leap, my child, into the beckoning coils of Set.
I live only to do your bidding, O priest.
Of course you do, my child.
I go now.
As the girl's body landed on the floor where we watched horrified, Yarrow looked down and saw us and the dead serpent.
Infidels! Down below, fleeing through that archway! Kill them! Kill the infidels!
Climbing the ropes as fast as we could, we reached the roof only moments after Valeria, who had observed all that had transpired.
The reptile worshippers are right behind us.
We'll never be able to climb down in time.
Forget climbing. Look down there. That pool. That's the only way out.
Right, let's go. Together, now. Jump! We surfaced exulting in the success of our daring exploits. Later in the city, we celebrated in a boisterous tavern, frequented by all manner of men, sailors, merchants, smugglers, pirates, and ordinary townsfolk. And what will you buy, Subutai, with your share of our newfound wealth?
A fine new cloak, as befits a man of my position.
A cloak? At a time like this, you think of nothing but a cloak?
And girls, Cimmerian. Sleek, beautiful girls. And you, my friend, will you also buy girls?
Nay, Hyrcanian, why should a man buy that which he already has?
Buy my sword, Subutai. He shall buy no other while I live.
Aye, and why should a man buy anything at all if he is as skilled in thievery as you three scoundrels?
We looked around to find ourselves surrounded by soldiers of the king, and we were taken directly to the palace.
These are the thieves of the tower, sire.
What daring, what insolence, what incredible arrogance you three have displayed. Yet from the bottom of my heart, I, King Osric of Samora, salute you for daring to defy the most foul of all that is evil, Thulsa Doom.
Forgive me, sire, but did you say doom?
Aye, Thulsa Doom. Even my own daughter has fallen under that devil's spell.
Thulsa Doom. At last a name to go with the hated face of the leader of the horde that had slain my parents. A memory burned into my brain as though by a hot iron.
Even as we speak, my daughter is on her way east to Thulsa Doom and his cursed mountain of power, where he intends to make her his. And that is why I summoned you here. I want you three to bring my daughter back to me.
But, sire...
You will be richly rewarded. Slave, pour out the rubies from the jar.
Beautiful. Exquisite.
Aye, take all you can carry. There are enough for each of you to become master of your own kingdom. Only swear to me that you will bring my daughter back.
Well, Conan, what say you?
Sire, your daughter will be returned to you. It was dawn as I rode eastward toward the mountain of power and entered on the most dangerous enterprise of my life. Behind me lay Shatizar, where I had left Valeria, I and Subutai. For how could I ask them to share my vengeful quest when they could scarcely even fathom my need to pursue it? It was near day's end when I arrived at a place where a series of great mounds rose before me. On each mound, impaled on stakes, were the bodies of men left to die by Thulsa Doom. Beyond the last mound stood a hut where a wizened old man sat hunched in the doorway. I pulled up my horse and dismounted. Are you the caretaker of this strange place, old one?
Great kings are buried in these mounds, warrior. And I sing to them of battles and heroes, women and riches. Here no one bothers me, not even the master.
The master?
Thulsa Doom, master of the mountain of power.
What do you know of him and his mountain?
Only evil dwells there, and the greatest evil of all is Thulsa Doom.
Clearly, the Ancient One was no friend of Doom. He was, in fact, a wizard, learned in the ways of sorcery, and he had already divined some of my reason for being here. I stayed the night, and in the morning, exchanging my warrior's armor for a pilgrim's robe, I took my leave. Keep my sword well oiled, old one, and my horse well fed, for I will return and will have need of both.
Have no fear, Cimmerian, and may your mission be crowned with success.
I joined the throng of pilgrims trudging along the rocky road through the mountain of power, a short distance beyond the old one's hut. As we drew near the great shrine of Doom, I stepped out of the column of pilgrims and was abruptly challenged by one of the priests.
Where do you think you're going, brother?
I have doubts, fears, O priest. Perhaps you can counsel me away from the others. Over here, where it is quiet?
Why, yes, of course, brother.
We walked slowly behind a large rock, out of sight of the rest. And before he even knew what happened, the disciple of Set lay unconscious on the ground. And I, now dressed in his priestly raiment, mingled with the other priests, filing silently into Thulsa Doom's forbidding house of worship. At the entrance, each showed a bronze medallion with the symbol of the two snakes, like the one I had stolen in Shadizar. And when it came to my turn, I showed mine and was allowed to pass. Soon I stood in the great amphitheater, believing I had deceived the guards. There in the center above us all stood the awesome figure of Thulsa Doom, his hypnotic voice holding his fascinated followers in trance-like attention.
The day of doom is at hand, my children. The day when I will order you to destroy the parents and leaders who have lied to you. The day your daggers will strike down pathetic fools who tried to deceive you, even as that dog of an infidel standing there has attempted to deceive me. Seize him!
In the next instant, I was being hammered to the floor by a score of mailed fists.
You broke into my temple in Shadizar, stole my property, and slew the serpent I raised from the moment it was born 20 years ago.
If only Crom had granted me a minute longer, I would have destroyed you, too.
My, such hatred. Why?
You murdered my father and mother and all my people, and stole my father's sword.
It must have been long ago, when I searched for the riddle of steel. But I tell you now, boy, steel is not strong. For what is steel compared to the hand that wields it?
You condemned me to the Vanir wheel of pain.
And behold what it did for you. The strength of your arm, the fire in your eye, the desire in your heart. All this I gave you. And what a pity. For now, my boy, you will have to contemplate all these things on the tree of woe. Rexor, crucify him.
On the desolate, weathered plain beyond the mountain of power, they nailed me to the tree of woe. Beneath me, the ground shimmered like heated iron. Above me, the sun glowered down like a demon's eye, as the vultures hovered in the windless sky, waiting for me to die. They would not have long to wait, for I knew I would not live to greet another dawn. And then suddenly out of the horizon arose the form of a man, running effortlessly across the vast red landscape. I knew of only one breed of man who could run that way, a Hyrcanian steppe-dweller. And praise Crom, I was right. It was Subutai. He took me down from the tree.
Hold on, my friend. Valeria and I will take care of you until your wounds heal.
Take me to the wizard. Then I lost consciousness, and they carried me to the wizard. Summoning all the powers at his command, he committed his sorcery in a fierce struggle against the evil spirits that reached for my soul.
His body is twitching and heaving and racked with strange spasms. Wizard, what can we do?
Just stay at his side, whatever comes.
All through the night, the struggle went on. And then suddenly at dawn, I opened my eyes.
The spirits are gone. We have one girl.
Oh, Conan, the gods cannot separate us. Were I dead, I would return from the very pit of hell to fight at your side.
The wizard had done his work well, and my wounds healed without trace. And before long, we were on our way to complete our mission. But my mission was still vengeance on the hated Thulsa Doom.
But remember, first things first, Cimmerian. We'll steal the girl, nothing else. The other comes later.
Is it agreed, Conan? Just the girl?
I nodded my head but said nothing, and we rode on. It was night when we reached the river-filled gorge behind the Mountain of Power and picked our way up the massive cliffs to the mouth of a great cave, lighted by the glow of a hot fire burning within.
It is like a scene out of hell itself. That rock cauldron, boiling, bubbling, constantly stirred by those ape-like men.
They are trolls.
No. Long ago, there were two races, men and the shadow dwellers. The men moved into the light, and these shadow dwellers, they
live on human flesh. They are the fiends Doom breeds to protect his children.
And some of these children appear to be their dinner.
How horrible.
Look, over the other side. That must be the chamber of Thulsa Doom himself.
Subutai was right, and we made our way unseen across a footbridge spanning the great cavern. Pausing outside the chamber entrance, we peered inside. There on a throne sat Thulsa Doom, and before him there was a dancing girl, swaying, undulating.
That girl, she must be Yasenina, princess of Shadizar, daughter of King Osric.
And as we watched, Our fascination turned to horror as we saw the archfiend Thulsa Doom transform himself into the living image of Set.
The serpent god. Ugh. Come, Cimmerian. Let's do what we came to do and then get away from this foul place.
Subutai seized a lighted torch from the wall and hurled it into the curtain lining the wall of the chamber.
The curtains, they're on fire.
Under cover of the thick clouds of black smoke that billowed through the chamber, we raced toward Yasemina, weapons in hand. 3 of Doom's beastmen sprang forward to block us, but I cut my way through them with flashing steel. Valeria reached the princess first, but Yasemina tried to resist capture.
Help me, Lord Doom, save me.
Stop that stupid screaming, wench. You're coming with us.
Subutai, Valeria, head for the outside wall. I'll cover the rear.
The climbing rope is secure. Let's go, everybody. Down the rope to the river.
As we climbed down, one of Doom's men started cutting the rope.
Faster, everyone, faster!
Luckily, by the time he cut through it, we had only 8 or 9 cubits to fall. But at that moment, on the ledge high above...
Yarrow, hand me the bow.
Here it is, master.
This twisting viper will make a deadlier arrow than any feathered missive. Death to the infidels.
Valeria! No! No! The living arrow of death had found its mark in Valeria. She gasped in pain as I pulled the serpent from her body and hurled it far down the frothing white water of the river. But it was too late. The poison was doing its deadly work.
Hold me, Conan. It's so cold. So...
Atop the great mound near the wizard's hut, we lay Valeria to her final rest on a funeral pyre of dried wood. As the flames rose straight up to meet the starry sky, Subutai wept softly. Since the death of my parents, there had been no tears left in my eyes. But in the depths of my soul, there were tears that night. The next day, having lost our horses, we wondered how we would defend ourselves against the attack we knew would surely come. The Princess Yasemina, still prisoner of misguided loyalties, was still defiant.
Enjoy this day while you can, barbarian, for it will be your last.
Silence, wench.
I will not be silent, nor will Thulsa Doom. He has seen your fires and will come for me at sunset. And when he does, he will kill you.
You little fool. Do you think to frighten me with your childish blubbering? I was born on a battlefield. The first sounds I heard were the screams of dying men.
Conan, Subutai, see what I have brought you.
Spears, battle axes, armor. Where did you find these things, old one?
I took these from the dead men impaled on the mounds. When Thulsa Doom comes, you will need them. They won't.
With these weapons, we will be ready for him.
The gods are pleased with you, Cimmerian. They will watch the battle.
But will they help us, wizard?
No.
Then tell them to stay out of our way. We spent the rest of the day digging trenches and preparing traps of sharpened bamboo stakes, half concealed in sand.
What happens now?
You will see war, old man. War as you've never seen it. And soon they came, Doom's men, 20 iron-plated horsemen, their fearsome battle cries rising above the thundering hoofbeats of their horses. We took cover behind our carefully prepared defenses. For the first time in my life, I prayed as one of the horsemen came directly at me. I've never prayed to you before, Crom, but now I ask that you grant me just this one thing. Grant me revenge. And I hurled my spear with all the ferocity at my command. And the horseman crashed to earth, screaming in agony. Even as 2 more of Doom's killers thundered down at me, I seized another spear.
Have a free spear, dog. I have plenty to spare.
The first fell to the ground impaled on the lethal shaft, and the second went down tasting the cold steel of my sword. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Subutai dispatch arrow after arrow with deadly accuracy.
Like a turkey shoot, Cimmerian. Haven't had this much entertainment in years.
But at that moment, a savage blow on my helmet knocked me to the ground. I turned to see hooves thundering down on me, and whirling around, I dove into the shelter of the nearest trench. The horseman tried to stop his mount.
Whoa!
But he could not, and was crushed to death as the beast stumbled into the pit. But as I stood up, I heard a familiar voice, and someone stood above me at the pit's edge.
Well done, barbarian. Very well done indeed.
Rexor!
I, infidel Rexor, who nailed your worthless hide to the tree of woe, and will now derive the utmost satisfaction from disemboweling you.
He had leaped down into the pit and struck the sword out of my hand before I had time to ready myself for his attack. I stumbled and fell, and just as his sword was about to descend...
Things have set a mighty sword arm from out of nowhere, staying my death stroke.
Crom's thunder! Have I gone mad? It's Valeria!
And did you doubt me then, Conan, when I held you in my arms and vowed that even the gods could never sever us?
My eyes, I cannot see that devil woman!
In that fraction of an instant, I lunged for my fallen sword and turned in time to see a fully recovered Rexor advancing on me.
Valeria! She's gone. She returned from the dead just to save me.
Aye, barbarian, and now as Fulcher Doom is my lord and master, I'll carve you into...
Nay, Rexor, your carving days are at an end. It is my turn now, and this is for my mother. And this is for my father. And this for me. He was dead, and now only the most hated of all my enemies yet remained to face my vengeance. Falsa Doom. And suddenly, I saw him on his horse, facing Princess Yasmina, still chained to a stone slab.
Don't leave me here, my lord. Don't leave me, my father.
Have no fear, beloved child. Your lord and master will not leave you to the clutches of these infidel dogs.
No, my lord. No, don't shoot.
Doom had placed one of his serpent arrows in his bow, but just as he fired it at Yasmina, Subutai raced in front of her, and with his shield deflected the arrow of living death, and it fell dead to the ground.
Praise the gods.
'Twas not exactly the gods who saved your precious hide, Princess.
I, your beloved master, would have killed you just now, and now I must kill him, and you must witness it. You will understand someday, when you are a queen. And as I walked slowly toward this king of darkness, sword in hand...
No, my son. You will not kill me, for what son would kill his own father? And who is your father if it is not me? I am the wellspring from which you flow. When I am gone, you will never have been. What could your world possibly be without me? My son, you would kill your own father?
It was done at last. My father was the light of day. Falsa Doom was my night. And now the night was ended. Doom's so-called children were now so many orphans. But like me, they were free at last. And now, Subutai, where will you go?
North and east, and you, Cimmerian, where will you go?
South and west.
We will meet again someday.
Aye, good friend, if only at the gates of the world beyond.
Let's take a short intermission. If you like Conan the Cimmerion, you may just love this series, The Best of Dimension X from Radio Gold. Dimension X was the first sci-fi anthology series to utilize published stories from established science fiction authors, which gave the series an instant status of credibility to hardcore fans. We'll be back in just a few seconds with Conan the Cimmerion and the adventure of the Tower of the Elephant. Stay tuned.
Torches flared murkily in the section of the city known as the Mall, where all the robbers and cutthroats of the East held carnival by night. In the Mall they could carouse and roar as they liked, for honest men shunned that quarter of the city of thieves, and watchmen, well paid with stained coins, did not interfere with their sport. Along the crooked, unpaved streets, with their heaps of refuse and puddles, drunken revelers staggered. Torchlight lit luridly from broken windows and wide-thrown doors, and out of those doors, rushing like a blow in the face, came the clamor of drinking jacks and fists hammered on rough tables. In one of those dens, merriment thundered to the low, smoke-stained roof as rascals gathered in every stage of rags and tatters. 30 cut-purses, leering kidnappers, quick-fingered thieves, swaggering bravos with their winches. Native Zamorian rogues were the dominant element, but there were human wolves there of half a dozen outland nations as well. And the fat, gross rogue whose bawdy jests were causing all the shouts of mirth was a professional kidnapper come up from distant Koth to teach woman-stealing to Zamorians who were born with more knowledge of the art than he could ever attain.
By Bel, God of all thieves, I'll show you how to steal wenches. I'll have her over the border before dawn where there's a caravan waiting to receive her. 300 pieces of silver a count of warfare promised me for a sleek young Berthunian of the better class. And is she a pretty baggage? Yeah! I know lords and Shem who would trade the secret of the Elephant Tower for her.
A touch on his sleeve made the bloated Kothian turn his head, scowling.
What the devil?
A tall, strongly made youth stood beside him, a man as much out of place in that den as a grey wolf among the mangy rats of the gutter. His cheap tunic could not conceal the hard, rangy lines of his powerful frame, the broad, heavy shoulders, the massive, lean waist and heavy arms. His skin was brown from outland suns, his eyes blue and smoldering, a shock of tousled black hair crowning his broad forehead, and at his side hung a sword in a worn leather scabbard.
You spoke of the Elephant Tower a moment ago. I've heard much of this tower. What is its secret?
The secret of the Elephant Tower? Why, any fool knows that Yara the priest dwells there, with the great jewel that men call the Elephant's Heart. That is the secret of his magic.
I have seen this tower. It is set in a great garden above the level of the city, surrounded by high walls. But I've seen no guards, and the walls would be easy to climb. Why hasn't someone stolen this gem if it's so powerful?
Hearken to this heathen! He would steal the jewel of Yara. Hearken, fellow. I suppose you're some sort of northern barbarian.
I am a Cimmerian.
Well, listen to me and learn something. Know that in Zamora, and most especially in the city of thieves, there are more bold robbers than anywhere else in the world, even Koth. If mortal man could have stolen that gem, be sure it would have been filched long ago.
But if a man could pass through the gardens, why could he not reach the gem through the upper part of the tower, and thus avoid not only the soldiers, but this Yara also?
Listen to him! The barbarian is an eagle who can fly to the jeweled rim of the tower, which is only 150 feet above the earth, with rounded sides slicker than polished glass. Come, tell these poor fellows who've only been thieves since before you were spawned. Tell them how you would steal the gem.
There is always a way, if the desire be coupled with courage.
What? You dare tell me my business and then intimate that I'm a coward? Get along! Get out of my sight!
Will you mock me and then lay hands on me?
His quick rage leaping up, the barbarian returned the Kothian shove with an open-handed blow that sent his tormentor sprawling, pulling with his sword.
You heathen dog! I'll have your heart out for that!
Steel flashed, and the throng surged wildly back out of the way. In their flight, they knocked over the single candle that lit the place, and the den was plunged into darkness. And the candle was relighted. The barbarian was gone, and the center of the room was deserted except for the gashed, lifeless body of the Kothian. The Cimmerian, with the unerring instinct of the barbarian, had killed his man in the darkness and confusion. The lurid lights and drunken revelry fell away behind the Cimmerian. He had discarded his torn tunic and walked through the night naked except for a loincloth and high-strapped sandals. He moved with the supple ease of a great tiger, his steely muscles rippling under his bronzed skin. At length, he saw it, looming ahead of him against the sky, the Tower of the Elephant. For a passing moment, he wondered why it was so named. No one seemed to know. He had never seen an elephant, but a wandering Shemite had sworn to him that it was a monstrous animal with a tail in front as well as behind. But all men know what liars are the men of Shem. The tower itself rose frostily beneath the stars, a round, slim, perfect cylinder 150 feet in height, standing among the waving, exotic trees of a garden enclosed by a great high wall. No light shone forth, and only a rim of great jewels high above sparkled in the moonlight. Conan halted before the wall. He knew it would be child's play to scale, but he hesitated at the thought of Yara, the high priest who lived somewhere within the tower. At last, curiosity overcame the barbarian, and leaping lightly, he was over the wall in an instant. Inside, starlight fell on the grassy sward, and somewhere a fountain tinkled. Drawing his sword, he made for the nearby shrubbery, only to nearly trip over a form that lay crumpled near the edge of the bushes.
Crom! A guard! He's been strangled. The body's still warm.
The barbarian glanced about uneasily. Suddenly, straining his eyes through the gloom, he saw a hint of motion through the shrubs near the wall. He glided toward it, making no more noise than a panther stealing through the night. Yet the man he was stalking heard. He wheeled quickly, blade in hand. For a tense moment, neither spoke, standing ready for anything.
You are no soldier. You're a thief like myself.
And who are you?
Taurus of Nemedia.
Ah, I've heard of you. Men call you a prince of thieves.
And rightly so. Now, who the devil are you?
I am Conan, a Cimmerian. I came seeking a way to steal Yara's jewel, the one men call the elephant's heart.
By Bel, god of thieves. I thought that only myself had courage enough to attempt that bit of poaching. Conan, I like your grit. And by Bel, we'll attempt this together, if you're willing.
I'll go as far as any man.
Then follow me.
The Nemedian thief led the barbarian to a second inner wall. This they both scaled easily and dropped down into the inner garden, which was a vague pool of shadows beneath the moon.
Keep behind me, Cimmerian, as you value your life.
Taking a copper tube from his belt, the Nemedian fixed his gaze on the shadowy mass of shrubbery a few yards away. The shrubbery was suddenly shaken, although the breeze had died down. Then two great eyes blazed out from the darkness, and behind them other sparks of fire glinted through the black.
Lions! There are fine in sight, maybe more, back in the bushes.
Be silent.
Taurus moved out from the wall, cautiously lifting the slender copper tube. Low rumblings rose from the shadows. As the blazing eyes moved forward, Conan could sense the great slavering jaws. He gripped his sword, expecting the sudden charge, the loud roar, and the irresistible hurtling of giant bodies. Just then, Taurus brought the mouth of the copper tube to his lips and blew powerfully. A long jet of yellowish powder shot out from the tube and billowed instantly into a thick green-yellow cloud that settled over the shrubbery, blotting out the glaring eyes. Conan could see nothing.
What is that mist?
Death. Soon only yellowish shreds of mist hung ghost-like in the air. Then they too were gone, and Taurus motioned his companion forward. There in the shadows lay 5 great tawny shapes, the fire of their grim eyes dimmed forever.
Rom, they died without a sound. Taurus, what goes in that powder?
It was made for the Black Lotus. The scent strikes dead any who smell it. And that was all I possessed. But come in Bel's name. Are we to waste the night in discussion? Come.
They glided through the shrubbery to the foot of the tower. There Taurus unwound the knotted cord about his waist, one end of which was a strong steel hook. He gripped the line and swung it about his head. Then he threw the line with a smooth, rippling motion of his mighty arm. Up and up it went, to vanish over the jeweled rim high above.
Luck the first cast. Now, we must climb this cord. And little need to ask a Cimmerian if he can.
If it will bear my weight.
It will bear thrice my own. It was woven from the tresses of dead women, which I took from their tombs at midnight and steeped in the deadly wine of the upas tree to give it strength. Follow me closely.
Gripping the rope, the Nemedian ascended it like a cat. The Cimmerian followed with ease. Up and up they went. The lights of the city spread out further and further to their sight as they climbed. Now Taurus reached the top and pulled himself up and over the rim. Conan paused a moment as he did the same, fascinated by the great frosty jewels whose gleams dazzled his barbarian eyes.
There's a fabulous fortune in jewels here.
Come on, come on. If we secure the heart, these and all other things shall be ours. Follow me. Now is when the real risks begin.
Like stalking tigers, they crept across the dark, gleaming floor to a sparkling, bejeweled door. It opened soundlessly to Taurus' cautious hand. Over the Nemedian's shoulder, Conan had a glimpse of walls, ceiling, and floors inside, all crusted with great white jewels.
I'll go first, lad. You follow me in a moment.
Stealthily, Taurus entered. Then suddenly...
Taurus! Taurus!
Taurus swayed and his lips parted, but only a dry rattle burst from his throat. He lurched forward, then fell headlong, clutching at his throat. Then he suddenly stiffened, and Conan knew without touching him that Taurus was dead. Crouching like a wolf at bay, Conan stared through the wide-flung door, but he saw nothing moving inside. He turned back to the dead Nemedian.
No mark of violence, except here on his neck. 3 small wounds with black edges.
Cautiously, Conan stole into the chamber, all but ignoring the jewels which lay strewn within. Then suddenly, death struck at him. A flying shadow swept across the gleaming floor. Only the barbarian's instinctive sidelong leap had saved his life. Conan had a flashing glimpse of a hairy black horror that rushed past him with a clashing of frothing fangs, and then something splashed from his bare shoulder that burned like drops of liquid hellfire. Then turning, sword held high, he saw a gigantic black spider, such as men behold only in their deepest nightmare. A spider large as a great hound, its 8 thick, hairy legs driving its horrible body over the floor at headlong pace. Full evilly gleaming eyes shining with a frightening intelligence, its fangs gripping the deadly venom which had already burned the barbarian's shoulder.
Fools that we were, not to have suspected that the upper chambers would be guarded.
Again the monster charged. Conan leaped high. It passed beneath him, wheeled and charged back. This time as he dodged it, his sword severed one of its misshapen legs. On its 7 remaining legs, the great spider ran up the wall to the ceiling to crouch for an instant, glaring down at him with fiendish red eyes. Then, without warning, it suddenly launched itself through space, trickling a strand of slimy, grayish fluid. Conan ducked frantically, barely escaping being snared by the flying web rope. He sprang toward the floor, but the spider was even quicker, and the silky strand across the far door made him a prisoner. He dared not try to cut through it, for before he could do so, the monster would be sinking its fangs into his back. And now began a deadly, desperate game. Again and again the spider raced across the ceiling out of sword's reach, dropping long, sticky loops of gray web strands. The strands were as thick as ropes, and Conan knew that once they were coiled about him, not all his barbarian strength would set him free before the monster struck. Then, suddenly, as the spider cast still another gruesome strand, it struck Conan's leg, knocking him off balance. He caught himself on his hands as he fell. He looked up. The hairy devil was racing down the wall to complete its conquest.
You spawn of hell!
Stung to frenzy, Conan caught up a jewel chest which lay at hand and hurled it with all of his might. So in the midst of those branching black legs it struck. Blood and greenish slime spattered, and the broken mass fell to the floor. The crushed black body lay among the flaming riot of jewels that spilled over it. Those great hairy legs moved aimlessly, twitched a final time, and then were still. Working free of the web, he cut through the strands which sealed the inner door and turned the latch. It was not locked. Inside, he saw only a flight of silver steps, dimly lighted and leading downward. Noiselessly, he began to descend them. Presently he came to a gleaming white door set with bloodstones. Carefully, he pressed against the door, and it swung silently inward. On the shimmering threshold, Conan stared like a wolf at bay. He was looking into a large chamber with a domed golden ceiling. The walls were of green jade, the floor of silver white, partly covered with thick rugs. Smoke and the exotic scent of incense floated up from a brazier, and behind it sat an idol on a marble couch. Conan stared aghast. The image had the body of a man, naked and green in color, but the head was one of nightmare and madness. It was too large for the human body, nor did it look at all human. Conan stared at the wide, flaring ears, the curling tentacle where a nose should have been, the white tusks tipped with round golden balls. The eyes of the statue were closed as if in sleep.
Take me. So this is the reason it's called the Tower of the Elephant. This is Yara's god.
Conan moved forward slowly, his eyes fixed on the motionless idol. Then, suddenly, his eyes opened. The Cimmerian froze in his tracks. This was no idol, it was a living thing, and he was trapped in its chamber. Conan stood stark still, unable to move, even to flee in his horror, as the trunk of the thing was lifted and quested about. The topaz eyes of the monster stared uneasily, and Conan knew that they were blind. Yet the creature heard.
Who is here? Yara, have you come to torture me again? Will you never be done? Oh, Yankosha, is there no end of agony?
Great tears rolled from the sightless eyes, and as Conan's gaze strayed to the monster's limbs, he knew it would not rise to attack him. For he saw on those limbs the mark of the rack and the searing brand of flame, and suddenly all fear and repulsion went from him to be replaced by a great pity. What this creature was, Conan could not know, but its suffering seemed so terrible that a strange, aching sadness came over the Cimmerian, he knew not why. He felt only that he was looking upon a cosmic tragedy, and he shrank with shame as if the guilt of the whole human race were laid upon him.
I am not Yara. I'm only a thief. I will not harm you.
Come near that I may touch you. You are not of Yara's race of devils. The clean, lean fierceness of the wasteland mocks you. There is blood on your fingers.
The spider on the chamber above.
You have slain a man too this night. And there is death in the tower above. I know.
Aye. The prince of all thieves lies dead there from the bite of the spider.
So and so. A slaying in the tavern and a slaying on the roof. I know. I feel. And the third slaying will make the magic of which not even Yara dreams. O magic of deliverance! O great green gods of Yog! Listen, O man. I am foul and monstrous to you, am I not? Nay, do not answer, I know. But you would seem as strange to me could I see you. There are many worlds besides this earth, and life takes many shapes. I am neither god nor demon, but flesh and blood like yourself, though the substance and the form be different.
Then whence did you come?
I am very old, man of the far countries. Long and long ago I came to this planet with others of my world from the great green planet Yog, which circles forever on the outer fringes of this universe. We swept through the ether on mighty wings that drove us through the cosmos more quickly than light. But we could never return, for on earth our wings withered from our shoulders. Here we abode apart from the earthly life. We saw men grow from the ape and build the shining cities. We saw the very oceans arise and engulf Atlantis. We saw new savages drift over the land to build a new civilization. And we saw this race of devils, the survivors of the ancient culture that was before Atlantis sank, rise once more into civilization and power. This accursed kingdom of Zamora. All this we saw, neither aiding nor hindering the immutable cosmic law, and one by one we died. For we of Yog are not immortal, though our lives are as the lives of planets and stars. At last I alone was left, dreaming of old times among the ruined temples, worshipped as a god by an ancient race. Then came Yara. Yara, versed in dark knowledge. With guile gotten among the dusky tombs of Stygia, he tricked me into divulging a secret I had not intended to bear, and turning my power upon me, he enslaved me. Ah, gods of Yog, my cup has been bitter since that hour.
Again tears stole from the unseeing eyes as Conan stood unmoving.
He pent me in this tower, which at his command I built for him in a single night. By fire and rack he mastered me, and for 300 years he has kept me alive to do his bidding, blackening my soul with cosmic sins that have no name. Yet not all my ancient secrets has he wrested from me, and my last gift shall be the sorcery of the blood and the jewel. For I feel the end of time draw near. You, man of Cimmeria, are the hand of fate. I beg of you, take the gem you will find on yonder altar.
The heart of the elephant.
Ah, the great magic, the mighty magic such as earth has not seen before and shall not see again. Take your sword, O man, and cut out my heart. Then squeeze it so that the blood will flow over the red stone. Then go you down these stairs and into the ebony chamber where Yara sits wrapped in lotus streams of evil. Speak his name and he will awaken. Then lay this gem before him and say, Yog Kosha gives you a last gift and a last enchantment. Then get you quickly from the tower. Fear not, your way shall be made clear.
I will do as you say.
The life of man is not the life of Yog, nor is human death the death of Yog. Let me be free of this cage of broken, blinded flesh, and I will once more be morning-crowned and shining, with wings to fly and feet to dance and eyes to see. And now, man of Cimmeria, strike home!
Uncertainly, Conan approached, and Yog Kosha, as if sensing his uncertainty, indicated where he should smite. Conan set his teeth and drove the sword deep. Blood streamed over the blade and his hand, and the monster started convulsively, then lay back quite still. Sure that life had fled, at least life as he understood it, Conan set to work on his grisly task and quickly brought forth something that he felt must be the strange being's heart. Holding the still pulsing organ over the blazing jewel, he pressed it with both hands, and a rain of blood fell on the stone.
The blood does not run off. It soaks into the gem.
Then, holding the jewel carefully, he strode from the fantastic chamber and without hesitation descended the silver steps. At last he halted before an ebony door and pushed it open. There, amid a chamber of ebony, on a black silken couch, Yara the sorcerer lay before him. His eyes were open and dilated with the fumes of the yellow lotus, as if fixed on gulfs and nighted abysses beyond human ken.
Yara, awaken! He who sent this gem bade me say, Yog Kosha gives a last gift and a last enchantment.
Ishtar! Yara recoiled, his dark face suddenly ashen. The jewel was no longer crystal clear. Its murky depths pulsed and throbbed, and curious waves of changing color passed over its smooth surface. As if drawn hypnotically, Yara gripped the gem in his hand, staring into its shadowed recesses, and as Conan watched, he thought his eyes must be playing him tricks, for with a shock he realized that the once tall priest was shrinking in stature and growing smaller before his very eyes. Conan knew only that he was looking upon the meeting of vast outer forces beyond his understanding, and now the sorcerer suddenly realized his fate.
No!
For already he was no bigger than a child, now like an infant sprawled on the table. He sprang up, releasing the gem to fall, but still he dwindled, and Conan saw a tiny doll-like figure rushing wildly about the ebony tabletop, waving tiny arms and shrieking in a voice he could hardly hear.
Help me! Oh, ye gods! Help me!
Now he had shrunk until the great jewel towered above him like a hill, and Conan sensed that some unseen magnetic force was pulling Yara to the gem. Bending close, Conan saw Yara give in to that force and clamber up the smooth, curving surface, impossibly like a man climbing a glass mountain. Now the priest stood at last on the top, still with tossing arms, invoking grisly names which only he and the gods knew. And suddenly he sank into the very heart of the jewel as a man sinks into the sea.
My Crom!
Now he saw Yara inside the jewel, which was once more crystal clear, and into the heart came a green, shining, winged figure with the body of a man and the head of an elephant. Yag-Kosha, but no longer blind and crippled, Yara threw up his arms and fled as a madman flees, and on his heels came the avenging Yag-Kosha. Then, like the bursting of a bubble, the great jewel vanished in a rainbow burst of iridescent gleams, and the ebony tabletop lay bare and deserted, as bare, Conan somehow knew, as the marble couch in the chamber above where the body of Yag-Kosha had lain. The Cimmerian turned then, and fled from the chamber down the silver stairs. Down that winding, shadowy stair he ran, to come at last into a large chamber where several Cimmerian soldiers slumped across banquet board among their dice and fallen goblets. Conan knew at once that they were dead. The promise had been made, the word kept, and a silver door stood open, framed in the whiteness of dawn. Into the waving green gardens ran Conan, and as the dawn wind blew upon, he started like a man waking from a dream. He turned back to stare at the great tower he had just left. But even as he looked, he saw the gleaming tower sway against the crimson dawn, its jeweled, frosted rim sparkling in the glowing light, and crash a million shining shards.
Let's take a short intermission. Nero Wolfe made his larger-than-life radio show debut on July 5, 1943. This intelligent detective show, based on the Rex Stout novels, proved to be a natural for classic radio. Throughout the show's run, Santos Ortega, Louis Van Rooten, Francis X. Bushman, and Sidney Greenstreet all filled the voluminous chair of Nero Wolfe. As well, a large assortment of actors played the part of every blonde's hero, Archie Goodwin. The Adventures of Nero Wolfe show remained popular on the airwaves in different versions for 8 years, from 1943 to 1951. Stay tuned for our third adventure, The Shadow of the Stolen City.
The desert. It covers countless thousands of square miles of the Earth's surface and drowns a man's tracks as surely as if it were the raging sea. And the man alone, set down in the midst of this barren, relentless waste, seems but a pitiful, helpless thing indeed. It is just past dawn when Conan sees the man. Already the blood-red sun beats down like some great beaming hammer upon the Cimmerian's brow, as his Ambulan stallion gallops across the ever-shifting sands. For a moment, a thought crosses his mind. Mirage. But then...
By God, it is a man, out here alone in the middle of the desert. Hard to make him out. Whoa, boy, steady. No, it's no mirage, as we first thought. A real man, and he's gesturing to me. Oh, Greybeard, what are you doing out here alone?
My name is Sarka, and my beard, young man, is not gray, it's white.
My apologies, but my question remains. What are you doing out here alone in this desolate place?
I am here because someone has stolen my city.
What?
Aye. As I said, I am Sarkov by name, a sorcerer by trade.
Sorcerer?
Oh, one of your most kind-hearted types, let me assure you. I live but to protect my city, which is called Koroshan. At least I did protect it, until last night. It was stolen away from under me while I slept. I woke to find it gone. Gone.
No one can steal a whole city, old man.
Then what am I doing here out in the middle of nowhere?
I'll admit I don't know, but I can't...
He stole it, I tell you, right from under my nose. And you must help me find it.
I tend to steer clear of wizards, but you seem harmless enough. If I help you find this stolen city of yours, what will I get out of it?
Peace of mind and a tranquil heart.
Not enough. I was thinking about money.
I deal in magic, not gold. I'm a sorcerer, not an alchemist. But let's see. There must be something I can... Yes, that's it. If you help me find and rescue my stolen city, I will use my great powers to give you a throne. The throne of a whole city.
A throne, eh? Well, some time back, an ancient wizard prophesied that I would one day become a king. Perhaps you, who look even older than he was, are the one who will bring that to pass.
Never doubt it, barbarian. I may look old. I am old. But I am still a mighty sorcerer.
All right. I'll take a chance with you, old man.
Sarka. The name is Sarka. Have a little respect.
All right, Sarkov. Here, let me help you onto the saddle, and we'll be off. Now, where is this city of yours, this Koroshan?
Well, it was north of here, near Shemekesh. But now I don't...
North of... You old fool. Shemekesh is south of here.
What? That can't be. How?
It's clear as the nose on your wrinkled face. Your city wasn't transported away last night. You were.
But that's impossible. Such things just aren't done. Not to sorcerers. Even he couldn't do such a thing. At least I don't think he could. But then again...
Who is he?
Why, Zorval, of course. He's another sorcerer. My bitter rival.
What else can you tell me about him?
Why, only that he's my son.
Your son?
But that was centuries ago. You see, for years, Zorval has wanted to begin a holy war against Shemekesh. But the Queen of Koroshan took my advice and wouldn't let him lead her city into a war. But now, with me gone, the desert may turn red with blood.
Then that's why he got rid of you.
Aye. And now our queen, Mehed is her name, doubtless believes I'm dead. So she'll probably fall under his sway. Right this moment, he's probably drafting all able-bodied young men to fight his holy war for him.
Do you think he knows I found you and plan to help you?
Oh, I'm quite sure he does.
Why?
Well, just look up at the sky.
At that moment, Conan suddenly sees the sky has grown black. Yet it is not filled with clouds, but with great, giant bats, their inhuman cries turning his blood to ice. Onward and downward they come, like some great dark blanket of fangs and claws. Conan feels the hairs rise on the nape of his neck, and as he draws his sword...
Ishtar and Mitra.
They are the shadow bats. They're a special creation of my son. He's always been very proud of them.
You're a sorcerer. How do we fight them?
I'm afraid I've never been able to. I guess you might try your sword.
Just then, the great bat-like monsters are upon them. With a snarl that is lost among the gibbering, flittering mass, the Cimmerian swings his great broadsword again and again, cutting a swath through them.
Shadow bats are not. They're solid enough to be cut and to die. Like Crom. But so many of them. My sword.
Let go of me. It's no use, barbarian. Now it's got us both. All we can do is relax and hope it takes us to Zorval.
The following moment, Conan finds himself lifted bodily as if he were a child's toy from his horse, as he and the aged Zarkov are borne skyward at a speed which sends the wind whistling by their ears.
He's veering off from the rest. Then he must be taking us to Korashan.
I've still got my knife. No sense using it now. We're too high up. If I slew the creature, we'd just fall to our deaths. Got to bide my time.
Look, there it is.
You mean...
Yes, Korashan. My stolen city. I recognize the castle. See? In fact, that's where it seems to be taking us now. We're descending.
Lower sweeps the circling gigantic bat. Finally, they are directly over the castle grounds.
We're low enough to survive now if this thing dropped us. Must strike now!
Stung by the barbarian's hard thrust weapon, the startled monster drops both Conan and the wizard.
Are you all right, Zarkov?
Yes. But where are...
We fell through a skylight. But I guess your magic made us land unhurt. We're in some vast chamber.
Ah, then we are bruised, but unbowed.
But that is only a matter of time, Zarkov. For both of you.
Who the devil?
Zorval!
Now I see him. There in the shadows. Son or not, Zarkov, he's an evil-looking specimen. But now I see a throne beside him, and a woman sitting in it.
I am Mayhet, Queen of Korashan. It is good to see you again, Zarkov. Your dear son told me you were dead.
Not quite accurate, my queen.
My queen now, dear father. You should have been content to die where I left you, instead of returning here. Your end will but be that much more terrible.
No one has driven me out of Korashan in 300 years, and no one is going to stop now.
So be it. The decision to resist is yours, and I see you brought some broad-shouldered barbarian to try to help you enforce it. Guards! Seize them both!
We've got him, sire.
It's one thing to seize a Cimmerian, dogs, and another to hold him.
He's certainly a strong one, Zorval. Perhaps instead of harming him, you should add him to your army for your holy war.
There must be no more, your majesty.
Silence! Keep your distance, father. I warn you. If you try to approach the throne...
I always told your mother she should have been more firm with you. A pity she died when you were only 90. Now, about this war.
Zarkov.
I am all right, barbarian.
Ishtar, that mystic burst would have slain a normal man.
We are neither of us normal men, my son. Now, why don't we...
No! You are the one person who could ever challenge my power. So you must die, father or no.
In that case, my son, I must do this.
A mighty blast.
And the next one will be stronger.
Ha! My own burst parried it. The battle is joined, then.
Yes, regrettably. The battle is joined.
Crom. They're getting nowhere. I wonder what they'll try next.
Then suddenly, before the startled eyes of the barbarian and the young queen, each man conjures up a glowing, mystic warrior, a shining double of himself, and the two of them clash in cosmic combat.
So white, I can hardly look at them.
And now, the two gleaming warriors strive, one against another, face to face, no swords, but only strength against strength.
They're near equal in skills. Sarkov is old. He's tiring. I can see his double getting weaker by the second. Soon, Sorval will overcome him, and...
Barbarian, come to me. I need your help.
I'm here, but what can my sword do against magic?
Take my hand, and I'll gain your strength. Hurry!
Puzzled, the brawny Cimmerian grasps the feeble human hand that reaches out toward him. In that selfsame instant, he suddenly feels as if he is drawn out of his own body, pulled mystically, powerfully, through that of the ancient wizard Sarkov, so that the next moment, the mystic warrior of Zorval is grappling with a figure like that of Conan the Barbarian, added to the mystic might of the wily Sarkov.
Oh, can't fight both of you.
And the next moment, the glowing Conan warrior forces the other to its knees with its sheer savagery. Then, with mighty arms, it crushes its foe into a pulsating mass and hurls it in a living ball of fiery energy toward the screaming Zorval. Then, when the light has faded...
Where is Zorval?
My son is no more.
Old man, I'm sorry.
No need to be. He had a long life, if not necessarily a good one.
Well then, not to rush things unduly, but what about my reward?
Oh, yes. Your Majesty, I'm afraid that I promised this young man a throne if he saved your city, our city, from the clutches of Zorval. No, I had no authority to do so, but I...
Say no more, dear Sarkov. Ruling a city in the desert is lonely work. I have been lonely here, and you, barbarian, are a very handsome young man.
Then you and your people would accept me as your king?
King? Oh, no. Coruscant has forever been ruled by a queen, and ever shall be. But you will still get to sit on a throne, only it would be a little lower than my own. And you could wear a crown. A little one, of course.
Of course.
But there are things you could lord it over. The annual Date Merchants Festival, for instance, or the caravans of camels which pass through the city. I find them much too smelly. Oh, and occasionally there might be an archery contest.
Sarkov, is this what you meant by giving me a throne? Marrying me to this...
Well, it seemed like a good idea at the time.
Then I free you from your bargain. I'm afraid I must decline your generous offer, Your Majesty.
What? I'm afraid I don't quite...
Sorry, Highness, I have business up north, where I heard there are new wars stirring among the Hyborians. But for me... just give me a sword on my hip and a horse between my knees.
Let's take a short intermission. The Best of X-1 from Radio Gold. X-1 has been described as one of the finest offerings of American radio drama and one of the best science fiction series in any medium of all time. Subscribe now to be notified when new shows drop. Are you ready? In a few seconds, we're going to start our final adventure. the Frost Giant's daughter. Stay tuned.
The clangor of sword and axe dies away. The shouting of the slaughter is hushed. Silence lies heavy on the red-stained snow. The bleak, pale sun that glittered so blindingly from the ice fields and the snow-covered plains strikes sheens of silver from rent corselet and broken blade where the dead lie as they have fallen. The nerveless hand yet grips the broken hilt. Helmeted heads drawn back in their death throes tilt red and golden beards grimly upward, as if in a last invocation to Ymir, the frost giant, god of a warrior race. Across the reddened drifts and the mail-clad forms, two figures glare at each other. In all that utter desolation, they alone move. Slowly, through the corpses they come, as ghosts might come to a tryst through the shambles of a dead world. In the brooding silence, they stand, face to face. Both are tall men, built as powerfully as tigers. Their shields are gone, their corselets battered and dented, blood dried on their mail, their swords are stained red. Their horned helmets show the marks of fierce strokes. One is beardless and black-maned. The locks and beard of the other are as red as the blood on the sunlit snow.
Barbarian, tell me your name, so that my brothers in Vanaheim may know who is the last of Wulfhere's band to fall before the sword of Heimdall.
Not in Vanaheim, but in Valhalla. Will you tell your brothers that you've met Conan of Cimmerion?
Heimdall roars and leaps, crashing in a deadly arc as the seeming blade crashes on his helmet, shivering into bits of blue fire. Conan staggers, and his vision is filled with red sparks, but as he reels, he thrusts with all the power of his broad shoulders behind the blade. The sharp point tears through brass scales and bone and heart, and the red-haired warrior dies at Conan's feet. The Cimmerian stands upright, trailing his sword, a sudden sick weariness assailing him. The glare of the sun on the snow cuts his eyes like a knife, and the sky seems shrunken and strangely apart. He turns away from the trampled expanse where yellow-bearded warriors lay locked with red-haired slayers in the embrace of death. A few steps he takes, and the glare of the snowfields is suddenly dimmed. A rushing wave of blindness engulfs him, and he sinks down into the snow, supporting himself on one mailed arm and seeking to shake the blindness out of his eyes as a lion might shake his mane. A silvery laugh cuts through his dizziness, and his sight slowly clears. He looks up. There is a strangeness about all the landscape that he cannot place or define, an unfamiliar tinge to earth and sky. But he does not think long of this. Before him, swaying like a sapling in the wind, stands a woman. To his dazed eyes, her body is like ivory, and save for a light veil of gossamer, she is as naked as the day. Her slender feet are whiter than the snow they spurn. She laughs down at the bewildered warrior with a laughter that is sweeter than the rippling of silvery fountains and poisoned with cruel mockery.
Who are you? Whence come you?
What matter?
Call up your men. Though my strength fail me, yet they shall not take me alive. I see that you are of the Vanir.
Have I said so?
I cannot tell whether you are of Vanaheim and mine enemy, or of Asgard and my friend. Far have I wandered. But a woman like you I have never seen. Your locks blind me with their brightness. Never have I seen such hair. Not even among the fairest daughters of the Aesir, by Ymir.
Who are you to swear by Ymir? What know you of the gods of ice and snow? You, who have come up from the south to adventure among an alien people.
By the dark gods of my own race, though I am not of the golden-haired Aesir, none has been more forward in swordplay. This day I have seen 80 men fall, and I alone survived the field where Warfare's reavers met the wolves of Braki. Tell me, woman, have you seen the flash of mail out across the snow plains, or seen armed men moving upon the ice?
I have seen the hoarfrost glittering in the sun. I have heard the wind whispering across the everlasting snows.
Niord should have come up with us before the battle joined. I fear he and his fighting men have been ambushed. Wulfhere and his warriors lie dead. I had thought there was no village within many leagues of this spot, for the war carried us far. But you cannot have come a great distance over these snows, naked as you are. Lead me to your tribe if you are of Asgard, for I am faint with blows and weariness of strife.
My village is further than you can walk. Conan of Cimmeria.
Spreading her arms wide, she sways before him, her golden head lolling sensuously, and her scintillant eyes half-shadowed beneath their long silken lashes.
Am I not beautiful, old man?
Like dawn running naked on the snows.
Then why do you not rise and follow me? Who is the strong warrior who falls down before me? Lie down and die in the snow with the other fools, Conan of the black hair. You cannot follow where I would lead.
With an oath,
by the lines of Ishtar!
The Cimmerian heaves himself up on his feet, his blue eyes blazing, his dark, scarred face contorted. Rage shakes his soul, but desire for the taunting figure before him hammers at his temples and drives his wild blood fiercely through his veins. Passion, fierce as physical agony, floods his whole being, so that earth and sky swim red to his dizzy gaze. In the madness that sweeps upon him, weariness and faintness are swept away. He speaks no word as he sheathes his bloody sword and drives at her, fingers spread to grip her soft flesh. She leaps back and runs, laughing at him over her white shoulder. With a low growl, Conan follows. He has forgotten the fight, forgotten Niord and the reavers who failed to reach the battle. He thinks only of the slender white shape which seems to float rather than run before him. Out across the blinding white plain the chase leads. The trampled red field falls out of sight behind him, but still Conan keeps on with the silent tenacity of his own race. His mailed feet break through the frozen crust. He sinks deep in the drifts and forges through them by sheer brute strength. But the girl dances across the snow, light as a feather floating on a pool. Her naked feet barely leave their imprint on the hoar frost that overlays the crust. On and on she leads. Black curses drool through the Cimmerian's parched lips. The great veins in his temples swell and throb, and his teeth gnash.
Harlot! You cannot escape me! Lead me into a trap and I'll pile the heads of your kinsmen at your feet! Hide from me and I'll tear the mountains apart to find you! I'll follow you into hell itself!
Foam flies from the barbarian's lips as her maddening laughter floats back to him. Farther and farther into the waste she leads him as the hours pass and the sun slides down its long slant to the horizon. The land changes. The wide plains give way to low hills marching upward in broken ranges. Far to the north, he catches a glimpse of towering mountains, their eternal snows blue with distance and pink in the rays of the blood-red setting sun. In the darkling skies above them shine the flaring rays of the aurora. They spread fanwise into the sky, frosty blades of cold, flaming light, changing in color, growing and brightening. He did not wonder at the strangeness of it all. Not even when two gigantic figures rose up to bar his way. The heels of their mail are white with hoarfrost. Their helmets and axes are covered with ice. Snow sprinkled their locks. In their beards are spikes of icicles, and their eyes are as cold as the lights that stream above them.
Brothers! Look who follows! I have brought you a man to slay! Take his heart, that we may lay it smoking on our father's board!
The giants answer with roars like the grinding of icicles on a frozen shore. They heave up their axes, shining in the starlight as the maddened Cimmerian hurls himself upon them. A frosty blade flashes before his eyes, blinding him with its brightness. He gives back a terrible stroke that shears through his foe's leg at knee. With a groan, the victim falls. And at the same instant, Conan is dashed into the snow, his left shoulder numb from a glancing blow of the survivor's axe from which the Cimmerian's mail has barely saved his life. Conan sees the remaining giant looming high above him like a colossus carved of ice, etched against the coldly glowing sky.
Outlander, I'll have your head!
The axe falls to sink through the snow and deep into the frozen earth as Conan hurls himself aside and leaps to his feet. The giant roars and wrenches his axe free, but even as he does, Conan's sword sings down. The giant's knees bend, and he sinks slowly into the snow, which turns crimson with the blood that gushes from his half-severed neck.
All the rest of your brothers! I'll give their huts to the wolves! You cannot escape me!
With a cry of fright, she turns, and she runs fleetly. She does not laugh now, nor mock him over her white shoulder. She runs as for her life, her golden locks blowing free. He hears the quick panting of her breath and sees the flash of fear in the look she casts over her shoulder. And Conan's untamed soul leaps up the fires of hell she has so well fanned. With an inhuman laugh, he closes in on her, just as she wheels with a haunting cry and flings out her arms to fend him off.
They're as cold as the snows. But I'll warm you with the fire of my own blood.
With a scream and a desperate wrench, she slipped from his arms, leaving her single gossamer garment in his grasp. She springs back and faces him, her golden locks in wild disarray, her white bosom heaving, her beautiful eyes blazing with terror. For an instant, Conan stands frozen, awed by her terrible beauty as she stands naked against the snow. And in that instant, she flings her arms toward the lights that glow in the skies and cries out in a voice that will ring in Conan's ears forever after.
Ymir! Oh, my father! Save me!
The girl's ivory body is suddenly enveloped in a cold blue flame so blinding that the Cimmerian throws up his hands to shield his eyes from the intolerable blaze. For a fleeting instant, skies and snowy hills are bathed in crackling white flames, blue darts of icy light and frozen crimson fires. Then Conan staggers and cries out, "The wench! She's gone!" The glowing snow lies empty and bare. High above his head, the witch lights play in a frosty sky gone mad. Among the distant blue mountains there sounds a rolling thunder as of a gigantic war chariot rushing behind steeds whose frantic hooves strike lightning from the snows and echoes from the skies. The snow-clad hills and the blazing heavens reel drunkenly to Conan's sight. Thousands of fireballs burst with showers of sparks, and the sky itself becomes a titanic wheel which rains stars as it spins. Under his feet, the snowy hills heave up like a wave, and the Cimmerian crumples into the snows to lie, motionless. In a cold, dark universe whose sun was extinguished eons ago, Conan feels the movement of life, alien and unguessed. An earthquake has him in its grip and is shaking him to and fro, at the same time chafing his hands and feet until he yells in pain and fury and gropes for his sword.
He's coming to us. Hasten, we must rub the frost out of his limbs if he's ever to wield sword again.
He won't open his left hand. He's clutching something.
Conan opens his eyes and stares into the bearded faces that bend over him. He is surrounded by tall, golden-haired warriors in mail and furs.
Conan, you live!
By Crom! Niord!
Am I alive? Or are we all dead and in Valhalla?
We live, we live. We had to fight our way through an ambush, or we had come up with you before the battle was joined. The corpses were scarce cold when we came upon the field. We did not find you among the dead, so we followed your spoor. In Ymir's name, Conan, why did you wander off into the wastes of the north? We have followed your tracks in the snow for hours. Had a blizzard come up and hidden them, we'd have never found you by Ymir.
We're not so often by Ymir. Legends say that the god bides among yonder peak.
I saw a woman. We met Brocky's men in the plains. I know not how long we fought. I alone lived. I was dizzy and faint. The land lay like a dream before me. Only now do all things seem natural and familiar. The woman came and taunted me. She was beautiful as a frozen flame from hell. A strange madness fell upon me, so that when I looked at her, I forgot all else in the world. I followed her. Did you not find her tracks? Or the giants in icy mail I slew?
We found only your tracks in the snow, Conan.
So that may be that I'm mad. Yet you yourself are no more real to me than the golden-locked wench who fled across the snows before me. Yet from under my very hands, she vanished in icy flame.
Here's delirious.
Not so. I know. It was a Tali, the daughter of Ymir, the frost giant. To fields of the dead she comes and shows herself to the dying. Myself, when a boy, I saw her. When I lay half slain on the bloody field of Wolf-Raven, I saw her walk among the dead in the snows, her naked body gleaming like ivory, and her golden hair unbearably bright in the moonlight. I lay and howled like a dying dog because I could not crawl after her. She lures men from stricken fields into the wastelands to be slain by her brothers, the ice giants who lay men's red hearts smoking on Ymir's board. The Cimmerian has seen her Tali, the frost giant's daughter.
Old Gorm's mind was touched in his youth. Conan was delirious from the fury of the battle. Any of those blows might have addled his brain. It was hallucination he followed into the wastes.
You speak truth, perhaps. It was all strange. And yet...
He breaks off, glaring at the object that still dangles from his clenched left fist.
My Grom!
The others gape silently at the veil he holds up. A wisp of gossamer that was never spun by human distaff.
Radio Gold is a 3 Nines Fine radio production. See you next time.